Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto started the clan Restoration Act and got harem? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Naruto woke up in the best way he could have imagined at first. Naruto opened his eyes, yawned, and looked to the sleeping beauty laying right next to him. The aroma of food cooking filled his nostrils, making his stomach start to grumble. At first, Naruto just wanted to look at the naked Hinata lying next to him. Then everything hit him. There was someone else in his apartment. Naruto's eyes grew wide as he realized what was wrong. Someone got into his apartment somehow and started cooking. Naruto shook his head as he realized how strange of an occurrence this was. Who just sneaks into someone's place to cook? Naruto was just about to get up when suddenly the person walked into the room. In the doorway was Temari, carrying 2 trays with food on them. Temari smiled, seeing that Naruto was awake, and quickly spoke. "Morning, Naruto. I made you 2 some food." "Temari," Naruto said, freaking out. "This isn't what it looks like." "What do you mean?" "She is going to be your wife too, so there is no problem with this." When the look of terror flashed off of Naruto's face, Temari had to fight back a laugh, if only to let Hinata get a moment more of sleep. Temari had fought back the urge to laugh and instantly felt the need to speak more, adding, "Listen. Even if I get jealous about this, there is no reason. While the marriage is going to be unusual, there will be other women that you will have to sleep with at one point or another. I just have to live with it because it is now part of my life. Beyond that, Karen and Inokinda taught me what sisterly love is like. Even though their brand of it is strange, I still am happy that I can someday have a chance of a bond like that. So I can live with this. Don't worry." "Well, that's good but, Temari." "Yeah? How did you get into my apartment?" Temari instantly realized how weird the whole situation seemed and quickly began to try and tell her side of the story. "Well, I wanted to do something nice for you too, so Jiko told me where you guys were at and let me into your place. I really felt weird at the time, and I do now. I really hope this isn't going too far." "No. It's a great idea. Thanks, Temari." Naruto started to shake Hinata as he talked. "Hinata. Wake up. Temari made us breakfast." Hinata slowly stirred and opened her eyes slowly. Looking and seeing Temari as she sat the trays down, Hinata slowly sat up, forgetting that she was wearing nothing under the blanket. The instant she sat up, Naruto blushed heavily, seeming to be unable to take his eyes off her chest, while Temari simply grinned. "Looks like you two had a fun night." Hinata looked at Temari with a confused look on her face, then spotted Naruto who was staring at her chest, so she followed his gaze. Looking down, she now noticed that she was wearing nothing herself and quickly pulled the covers up to cover herself. Naruto blushed a deeper shade of red for being seen staring, and Temari smiled. Hinata blushed to herself for letting Temari see her partially naked. "You two eat up. After you're done, I know Naruto has another date. Hinata, why don't you come hang out with me and the other future wives?" "Oh okay, that sounds nice," Hinata murmured, blushing still as she held the sheets tightly to her body. Temari smiled and walked over to her side of the bed. Hinata looked up sheepishly before Temari lightly pulled the sheets away from Hinata. Hinata made an eep noise before Temari bent over and lightly kissed Hinata on the lips. Both Naruto and Hinata's eyes sprang wide open in shock. Temari ended the kiss and started her way out of the room. "Oh, and Naruto," Temari started, making Naruto snap out of his shocked look and turn quickly toward Temari. "After getting a good look at her, I forgive you for talking about your date with her so much during our last date." Temari left the room and left the apartment. Hinata still looked shocked, so Naruto shook her lightly so she would snap out of it. "Oh, 1, did she just kiss me? And 2, what did she say about your date with her?" Hinata asked, still pretty red in the face. "Okay, well, 1 yeah. I think she did, and 2, well," Naruto started and blushed a bit. "I was excited about going on a date with you. I guess I talked a little too much about it." Hinata forgot about the kiss thing as she heard Naruto explain he was excited about his date with her. She instantly blushed even more and felt as though she were going to faint. Deciding that using up some of the built-up emotional energy would fix things, she pounced Naruto, hugging him as tightly as she could. Hinata looked up at Naruto, who had a look of surprise, and kissed him on the lips with such intensity, his lips hurt slightly. When she broke the kiss, she looked happily in Naruto's eyes. "Come on, let's eat, honey," Naruto said nervously. Hinata felt her heart flutter and she sat close to him as he grabbed the trays of food. Together, the two ate and nervously got dressed, stealing a peek at one another every other second. Naruto and Hinata soon walked out of the apartment and saw Temari standing outside, waiting for them. Naruto and Hinata both looked surprised to see her. Temari looked over, saw their surprise, and smiled. "Were you standing out here the whole time?" Naruto asked quickly. "No. I actually talked with Chiko for a few minutes. I asked him to please get the others and tell them to meet me at Ichiraku Ramen. He told me he was happy to help any wife of Naruto and left. Now that you guys are out, I'll walk with you, if that's okay. Sure, Hinata answered. Temari smiled and wrapped one arm in Naruto's and motioned for Hinata to do the same. We don't want him recruiting any other wives, so we'd better keep a tight hold on him. Temari said to Hinata. Hinata smiled, nodded, and took Naruto's other arm. The three walked down the street toward Hinata's home, both so she could drop off her things and so Naruto could get Hanabi. At the Hika mansion. As the three walked up to the clan home, they noticed Hiashi standing outside, looking aggravated. As they walked closer, Naruto finally noticed Hiashi's aggravation. Figuring he was going to take it out on him, or it was his fault, Naruto began to drag his heels severely. Come on, Naruto. What's wrong with you? Temari yelled, pulling him as hard as she could at this point. Hinata was right next to her, also pulling as hard as she could. Naruto was apparently stronger than the two of them. Naruto, what's wrong? Hinata grunted as she struggled to pull him. Your father looks pissed. Naruto whimpered. Hinata turned her head and saw him. He did indeed look pissed. The tug-of-war eventually turned into Temari trying her hardest to pull the two toward the mansion, but she found that she was moving nowhere. Feeling ridiculous, Temari was just about to give up pulling the two when Hiashi suddenly yelled out to them. Naruto. Hinata. Miss Temari. Please stop messing around, Hiashi growled. They all jumped in their spots and ran over as fast as possible. All three stood at attention. Hiashi smiled internally as he saw the humor in his situation. The one shinobi in the village that could probably destroy him with a single jutsu was too polite and acted as though Hiashi were God. He felt slightly calmer, but he was still aggravated. I'm sorry we are so late. I woke up late, then Temari stopped by and made us breakfast, then we talked for a few. I know we should have been here sooner. I'm so sorry. Naruto yelled quickly and nervously. Hiashi sighed, now knowing he had led them to a false conclusion. No. That's not what I am angry about. And thank you, Miss Temari, for accepting Hinata. I know you two are both in a weird situation and it means a lot to hear that you two might get along. It makes me wonder if I should consider Naruto's other wives sisters to Hinata, maybe I should wait to see how they get along with her first, Hiashi mumbled. Realizing he was off track, he got on with what he had to say. Anyway, Hanabi is away on a mission. It came in this morning and the team needed her. I do apologize, Naruto. No, it's okay. I can take her out another time, Naruto said, not all too concerned. He did have to wonder now, though, who was he going out with? You could just take us out, Naruto. Temari said, holding his hand. Hinata and I would like that. Hiashi smiled, thinking at first she was going to keep Naruto for herself, but including Hinata made him gain respect for her. He would defiantly be treating her like a daughter. Wait. A voice yelled a small way away. They turned and saw Ino and Karen running toward them. Temari sighed and Naruto and Hinata simply looked curiously. Hiashi sighed and looked at the three that were already there. Well, I'm going inside. Hinata, come in if things change, and Temari may join you if she so wishes. Hiashi left as Karen and Ino got there. Naruto smiled as they got there and started talking. Hey guys, what's up? We just heard Hanabi isn't in the village. You have already went out with both of them, so you have to go out with somebody else. Ino yelled. Says who? Temari retorted. Before the two could start fighting, Naruto chimed in. I agree, he said, surprising all four women. Think about it, Temari. It's better that I know and date them all so the wedding can happen sooner. Temari though for a moment and nodded in agreement. She hated getting pushed around and told something like Ino just did, feeling their relationship strain, but luckily, Naruto saved them from having a real issue. Do you want to come inside for a bit before we head to the meetup? Hinata asked Temari. Sure. Got nothing else to do for a bit. As the two girls walked into the Hika mansion, Naruto looked at the two girls in front of him. So which one of you am I taking out today? Me, Ino instantly said. Karen looked at her quickly with a look of anger on her face. No, you're taking me out today. Karen insisted, walking over to Naruto and grabbing his hand. No, he is taking me out. Ino shouted in response and grabbed Naruto's arm. The two girls looked aggravated and looked as though they were about to fight. The two then snapped their heads toward Naruto. Which are you taking out? They both yelled. Naruto began sweating bullets. He didn't want to anger either of them and was not looking forward to either of them fighting the other over his decision. I'll leave that up to you two, Naruto said, scared and nervously. The two looked at each other with such intensity, Naruto backed up as much as he could, while being held in place in fear one of their heads would explode from the intensity of the stares. Just take both of us. Karen said, looking back to Naruto as though no anger had ever existed between Ino and herself. It would be easiest. Ino included, with the exact same look on her face. Though Naruto was nervous of the idea, he had to agree it was the easiest idea. He also thought about how Ino and Karen reminded him a lot of Ino with Sakura a long time ago, though these arguments seemed to have peaceful endings. At least that one did, to his knowledge. Oh okay, Naruto conceded. The two girls smiled happily and both led Naruto off. Though he hoped he was done with the arguments, something told him it was going to be a fight every minute. In the Hika mansion. Temari walked into the Hika mansion with Hinata and Temari had to stop in her tracks. The Hika family was known to be a powerful and rich family, but the mansion appeared to be more well furnished than the Hokage mansion and the hotel she was staying at, the most expensive one, combined. The art that covered the walls and sculpture that stood in corners in the first 20 feet looked like they cost more than the mansion itself. Each piece came from another village, as was obvious by the tags by each piece. While she was in the middle of the hall, she felt as though she tread carefully just to make sure she would break nothing. Hinata looked back and saw Temari acting overly careful. She then couldn't help but remember when she was young, that was the exact way she was. The thing that helped her get over it was the fact she hadn't ever come close to breaking anything. Granted, that was mostly due to the traps and barriers that protected the art. Temari, are you okay? Hinata asked, walking back toward her. Yeah, I just have never seen this much net worth in one room, Temari gasped. And I was at the Kage summit years ago before the Fourth Shinobi War. I used to do the same thing that you just did. Trust me. You won't break anything. Look at them again. Temari looked back to the art and noticed several barrier tags and a few razor-thin wire traps. Temari smiled, feeling more in danger now than nervous. As she sped up a bit, the two entered into the first real room in the mansion. It was an outdoor garden with an open roof that led to the actual house. Temari suddenly wondered how long it would actually take to see the house, rather than just the entryways. Hinata. Nice to see you joined us, Temari. A voice said. Hiashi walked out from his spot, hidden behind a tree in the garden. Hinata bowed to her father, and Temari quickly copied her. Hiashi raised a hand to cease, causing them to both stand up straight very quickly. That's not necessary. It's true that I usually have Hinata bow around when we have guests, but only to show obeisance. You, Temari, seem like you will be more than a guest. The fact you two both showed up with Naruto, with neither of you looking sour about being around each other, shows me that. I am aware that you are the first to be officiated with Naruto, but you don't seem to hold it over Hinata. No sir. Actually, on one of our first dates, I thought Hinata was following and shouted out that she should join us. It turned out to be Go, but I still thought it would have been fun. Temari explained. Hiashi looked to Hinata for confirmation, to which she nodded. Hiashi smiled and motioned for them to follow. So, where are you staying, Temari? Hiashi asked, opening the real front door for them. At the hotel down the street. Luckily, my brother decided I should stay in the most expensive one. Nothing against the Leaf Village, but they do share one economic thing with the Sand Village. Both suffer from low-end hotels. Hiashi stopped and looked at Temari. Temari instantly figured she had insulted him when she insulted the hotels. She was just about to sincerely apologize when Hiashi spoke. I will not allow you to stay in a hotel. You should not be charged for staying in the village when you are involved with our Hokage. Seeing as you and Hinata will have to get used to each other, I insist you move your possessions here and stay with us. Hiashi demanded. Temari instantly fumbled with her words, surprised at the generous offer. No. I wouldn't want to impose on both of you like that. Temari insisted. Hinata, what do you think? Hiashi asked, looking to his daughter. I think it could be fun. I've never really had a friend over. Hinata said. Excellent. Well, get your things and move in here. You are welcome to any empty room you want. Or you could stay in Hinata's room for a while. I know girls like slumber parties, I think, Hiashi said and walked away from the two. Temari looked at Hinata for some sort of sign of what to do. Let's go get your stuff before we have to meet up with the others. Hinata insisted and lead her out of the mansion, promising a tour when they had Temari's stuff. With Naruto, Karen, and Ino. Naruto was being pulled down the street by both arms. One being controlled by Ino and the other by Karen. People in the area kept glancing at Naruto as he was forcefully pulled along by the women. We gotta get something to eat first. Karen shouted, attempting to lead Naruto in one direction. No, we have to get some shopping done. Ino yelled in return. We can do both, just pick one, Naruto murmured, unhappy with his current situation. Dude. Karen yelled. Shopping. Ino yelled back. As the two fought over him, Naruto entered his mind and met up with the fox. Luckily, his body would be on autopilot, as though it were a clone. What's the problem, Kit? Kurama asked. Naruto looked up at him. I might go insane on this date, Naruto said as he sat down. The fox laid down and grunted. I understand. Having to listen to these two may cause me to go insane as well. You have only been out with them for all of 10 minutes and they have fought most of it. Why don't you just take control of what you three do? That way there is no reason for them to fight. Kurama explained. I guess, but what if they continue to fight? They seem to care for you enough to share you, so they might as well see your logic. There is only one way to find out, Kit. Naruto came out of his mind and saw he was in the same situation. They were still arguing about where to go. Naruto was just about to attempt to declare what he thought they should do when something happened. Ino was just about to yell shopping again when her stomach growled loudly. The two of them smiled and began to laugh loudly. You're right, Karen. Food does sound good. Ino said, and the two lead Naruto to get food. Wait, what just happened? Naruto asked suddenly, getting his confusion out in the open. The two looked at him and smiled happily. Oh, that. You don't have to worry about that. Karen explained. We do that all the time. It's not serious or anything. We just like to disagree about little things vocally. It's not like we actually get mad at each other. Ino finished. Naruto looked at the two with a quizzical look. Wow, Ino. You always need somebody to fight with, don't you? Naruto laughed to himself. Ino smiled, lowering her head slightly. The obvious reference was about someone that no one talked to anymore. Sakura. No one had talked to her for a long time, and that was her own choice. She held a grudge against Naruto for forcing Sasuke back to the village. She held a grudge against him for allowing the village to throw him in the Leaf Village's maximum security prison. After all that happened, she refused to forgive anybody. For some reason, she had snapped beyond the ability to save. Everyone who was once her friend had eventually given up trying to save her. She had fallen, and nothing could be done. The same could be said for her reason for breaking. Sasuke was just as bad as she was. Even after talking with Itachi, even after helping stop the impure world resurrection jutsu, he was lost. He had watched his last relative die a second time, and it proved to be too much for him to bear. The moment the war was over, he was captured and brought back to the Leaf Village. After an evaluation of his mind, he was deemed too insane to walk the streets and too powerful to put into a mental asylum. So he was thrown into the Leaf's prison, with visits from the Leaf's top psychiatrist. Nothing helped the poor uchiha, and he was left to rot. Sorry, you guys, Karen whispered, realizing the hardship they had went through. She brought them both into a hug, holding them tightly. They both returned the hug, feeling the drain on their emotional state. Naruto and Ino were the ones most affected by the loss of both Sasuke and Sakura to insanity. Though it had been a while, it was an emotional wound that would take a long time to heal. Thanks, Karen, Naruto said, burying his face into her neck. I forget how much I miss the old days, thanks for being there, Karen, Ino said, hugging her best friend tightly. Naruto and Ino fought off tears, and Karen supported them her best. Let's skip food. I'm sure you guys are not hungry. Let's get our minds off it by heading to the shopping district. Karen insisted. Naruto and Ino both agreed, feeling like they needed to get their minds off of the past. Where do you guys want to go? I could really use some new jumpsuits, Naruto mentioned. Yeah, clothing shopping sounds nice, Ino agreed. Karen smiled at them. Okay. My treat. It's the least I can do. Karen said, giving the two a final big hug. Ino and Karen both took one of Naruto's hands and held tightly. Together, the three walked off to get said shopping underway. At the future wives gathering. Temari and Hinata walked into the meeting place for the future wives. At the table they claimed their own, sat Samui and Ren. As they walked up closer and noticed another was sitting with them. It turned out to be none other than the Hokage, Lady Tsunade. Hello, Lady Hokage. What brings you here? Hinata asked, taking her seat and scooting over on the booth seat for Temari. After they were seated, Tsunade decided to answer. I've come to discuss two things. One, the names you will take, and another is a little info I feel you should know. Tsunade informed. The four there looked at her, nodding. Saying there are 8 of you, 4 will become Namikaze, and 4 will become Uzumaki. The ones who will become Namikaze are Temari, Hanabi, Ino, and Kuritsuchi. The Uzumaki are Hinata, Karen, Samui, and Ren. Kuritsuchi is going to hate that. Samui laughed to herself. If she would have come out here like she was asked, then this would have turned out differently. However, the humor in her taking the Namikaze name is too funny to pass up. I hope none of you will tell her until she arrives for good. Tsunade asked. All of the future wives nodded. Alright. Now, there are some reasons for the name selection. For instance, Hinata has loved him long before she knew his other last name. Karen is going to adopt the name Uzumaki, as she is in Uzumaki. Everyone looked at her with a mix of shock and realization. Almost all of them have heard the fact that most Uzumaki have red hair, but they all seemed to assume she just had red hair and nothing else. Beyond that, there were almost no Uzumaki anymore. People then realized how important it was that Karen and Naruto had children. They all wanted them, but Karen now seemed to carry a heavier weight on her shoulders that she no doubt realized. Wow. So their children may have red hair as well? Temari asked. Possibly. However, Naruto got his blonde hair from his father, so there is a chance they won't. Tsunade answered. Though I have to say. The Leaf Village has always used the Uzumaki symbol on the back of our flak jackets. If they have any red-haired children, or any of you have them, they will be offered the Clan Restoration Act as well. Granted, it would have to be male children. Men are too primitive to share one woman, and a woman can only have a child about a year, unless it's twins. Roughly of course, but a boy could have multiple wives with a chance of many offspring. Like this current situation. They all seemed to look at each other, thinking about their future children at that exact moment. They all thought if they wanted their kids to be in a somewhat similar situation. Samui really didn't care, as long as her child's spouse, or plural of such, were strong. Ren herself used her own thought process, that the child had to have earned the love of her child through heroics. Temari herself couldn't make that kind of decision, knowing full well that she wanted to experience a lot of what it was like before she would recommend it to her children. Hinata had a very similar ideal to Temari's. While they would probably discuss part of that during the day, they all silently agreed to wait for the others in order to get everybody's input, even though it would only affect their own children. I really need to get back to the mansion, I just really wanted to stop by and inform you all of what was going on. Tsunade stated as she stood. As she began to walk away, she quickly turned around. One more thing. The wedding will be 1 week after Naruto has dated all of you. After today, if my information is correct, then there will only be 4 left. It's approaching quickly. I hope you are ready. Tsunade took her leave, and the future wives sat by themselves. Today's meeting had only started, and there was already a lot on the table. The basic time of the wedding was set, they knew what names they were taking, and several things to think about. And it was barely after 12 o'clock. But Naruto, Karen, and Ino. The 3 had just finished shopping, and had employed Naruto to carry their bags. As they walked ahead, leading him to the place they were going to eat, he was trying to look through the bags that they had given him to carry. The only reason he was so curious was because they had apparently gotten him something, and he wanted to know what. He hadn't seen the item, but at one point or another Ino or Karen had vanished. All he could see in the bags he could look at were shirts and pants for Karen and Ino. One bag contained 3 new jumpsuits for Naruto, looking exactly like the one he had on now. It was difficult to look in all the bags, as there were a whopping 10 bags at least. Naruto had regrettably not paid attention to how many. Stop looking. We will give you the gift when we get to the place we are eating. Ino said, seeing him looking at the bags as they went along. Karen looked back at him and smiled brightly. Naruto had to control himself from looking into the bags due to the fact that one of them looked back every so often, and he knew he would be scolded for looking when told not to. Well, it shouldn't have been a big deal to the strongest ninja in the village. If they told him to stop, he would. He wasn't that used to having friends, so he didn't really want to aggravate anyone. Even if they were future wives. As they got to the designation the women picked to eat, Naruto had the opportunity to sit the bags down and look around. He knew this place. Ichiraku ramen. Naruto yelled in excitement. The 2 girls smiled happily, glad Naruto was excited that they had remembered what place he liked to eat. In all truth, it was village knowledge. This one is on me, Ino said, and sat at the seat nearest her. Naruto sat next to her, and Karen on the other side of Naruto. Tucci walked to the counter and saw Naruto with 2 of his future wives. Hey Naruto. And I recognize these 2. Miss Ino and Miss Karen. Welcome to my ramen stand. Tucci said, grabbing his order pad. If neither of you can match Naruto in his eating habits, then I will pay for the meal. One of us can, Karen whispered. Tucci looked at the girl in slight disbelief, not thinking neither Ino nor Karen could keep up with Naruto. I doubt that. Now, what will you guys be having? Tucci asked. I'll start with 2 bowls of miso soup ramen. Naruto shouted excitedly. I guess I'll have the same. Ino said, never having eaten at the ramen stand. Me too, Karen murmured. It wasn't long till their food was brought to them. Ino looked at the 2 bowls brought to her with wide eyes, having no idea she was going to be ordering something so massive. Naruto instantly dug in, and Karen followed along with Naruto. Ino glanced at the 2, wolfing down their ramen like they hadn't eaten in years. Ino attempted to follow along, but found the amount of food daunting. It wasn't that long till Naruto had finished his 2 bowls and pushed them forward to be collected and refilled. He looked at Ino, seeing her taking her time with her first bowl. He gave her a reassuring smile and looked over to Karen. The second he did, his eyes grew wide. She too had pushed her bowls forward to be refilled. She didn't look full at all and seemed to be in the same shape he was. When Karen noticed him looking at her, she shyly turned away, worried he had seen her eating like a pig. You ate those already? Yeah, Karen whispered, ashamed. Sweet. Finally there is someone who can eat ramen with me. Everybody always stops so quickly and want to leave right away. Naruto said and hugged her in a happy expression. Karen blushed and fixed her glasses, thankful he accepted her rather than being disgusted by her ability to eat. I can't offer free ramen if you two are going to devour our entire stock. Tucci shouted. He was busy making ramen as fast as he could, with his daughter doing the same. It's okay. I will pay. Ino insisted, causing both Karen and Naruto to look at her thankfully. She had been out to eat with Karen before, so she knew what she was in for. She just guessed it would be Karen times 2. She was wrong. As the bowls continued, Ino noticed Karen was able to devour more now that she had competition, though it was more likely she felt she didn't have to hold back. Soon, Naruto and Karen were on their 8th helping apiece, 16 if you counted each bowl, rather than the order refills. Suddenly, Ino was checking her wallet to see how much she had. After doing the math, she figured she could pay for 20 order refills apiece, double if it was paid by the bowls. Ino continued on her food, hoping she could stretch it out to last as long as they would eat. After another half hour, Karen and Naruto had finished their food. They had refilled their orders 13 times, resulting in 26 bowls of ramen apiece. Ino simply sat there staring at them in horror, unaware anybody could inhale that much food in the total time of 45 minutes. Naruto and Karen both leaned forward, relaxing as they digested their food. I only have enough for 20 of each of their orders, and mine, Ino said, putting the money on the table. Tucci picked it up and put it in the register. It's alright. The rest is on us. Thanks for treating Naruto, and thanks for being a part of his life. It's nice to see people being nice to him. Believe me, I've seen my fair share of the difficulty in his life, and I'm glad he will have plenty of people to love him now. I hope to meet the rest of his future wives eventually. He is like a son to me. Tucci said, smiling to both Karen and Ino. He does deserve it. He has lived for nothing than to serve the village his whole life. Now, they are finally paying him back for that and all the harshness in his life. Ino said, reaching over and squeezing Naruto's hand. Naruto looked to her and smiled happily. Karen did the same with the other hand. And it's nice to see you two dealing with the entire thing so well. You don't even seem to admit that the other is here. Tucci pointed out. Well, we are best friends. It will be like we're sisters with the same husband. Karen stated. All Tucci could do was laugh at the response. He really liked these two. He had met Hinata, met Temari, and was a little excited to meet the others. They all seemed to like him a lot, and that meant the world to Tucci. So what should we do now? Naruto asked. Karen and Ino looked at each other. Both shrugging, they looked to Naruto. Let's head back to your place and give you the stuff we got you. Ino suggested. Naruto nodded in excitement and stood up quickly. He was ready to go. Karen laid a big tip on the table, which was what she had left in her wallet, and they walked off, leaving Tucci smiling at the friendship and love they seemed to have with and for Naruto. But the wives. The wives sat at the meeting place, enjoying each other's company. It had been a while since Tsunade had left. They had all eaten and discussed the day's events and all things since they last met up. Samui had opened up to the others slightly, talking more than she had to, though not by much. They each shared their stories about Naruto, so they could all gain a better understanding of what he was like. Samui and Ren, who knew very little about Naruto, found the story sharing very helpful. They discovered that Naruto was exactly what they had heard. Selfless to the point of self-destruction, caring enough that he would do anything, keeping every promise he ever made no matter how long, and was amazingly resilient. He had left such an impression on Temari and Hinata that it seemed as though they wanted this marriage more than Ren and Samui did. Not to say they didn't want it. Sorry, but I need a drink. I'm happy everything I have heard about Naruto was true, but this is a lot to take in. Samui said and waved the waitress over. I'll have a glass of wine, please. You guys want anything? Beer. Temari answered. Sake both Ren and Hinata said. In all truth, Hinata and Ren would have been fine without it, but if the other two were, and they themselves didn't mind the idea, why not? They got their drinks and settled into talking. You know, I'm kinda jealous that you guys have such a history with Naruto. It makes me feel kinda bad. How about you, Samui? Ren asked. A little. But that's why we are here now. Time to catch up. Yeah, and we all have something that Naruto did for us. Saved your and Ren's lives. Saved my family from destroying itself. And he inspired Hinata to be more confident and to push herself to be a better ninja. Samui stated. Yeah, but we will have our turn when we are married to Naruto, Samui. Ren stated. Oh, and by the way, sorry Hinata, but Hinata got laid. Temari chimed in, with no setup. Hinata instantly looked shocked and swung her head in the direction of Temari. Both Ren and Samui had different looks. Samui put a slightly perverted look on her face, while Ren suddenly blushed heavily. Hinata herself was blushing heavily while Temari defended herself by looking at Hinata and saying, "Sorry. We're the wives, so gossip is all between us. It's okay." While Hinata did seem to calm down a little bit, well barely noticeable, she did calm down. Samui instantly noted something, though it was an early hypothesis. "I think he has sex with whoever he is going out with at the time." "Does that mean he is a super pervert?" Ren instantly yelled a little too loudly. Both Temari and Hinata instantly started laughing at the notion as people around them looked at the table in shock. "No, if you knew Naruto, then you would know that. Not insulting the fact that you don't know him that well, but he isn't like that. When I slept with him, I was the one who started it. I assume it was the same way with you, Hinata," Temari stated. Actually, Hinata started, causing Temari to twist her head quickly in Hinata's direction. "It was kin to both of us." "So then it is possible. Temari made him a sex addict," Samui joked. The Samui, Ren, and Temari laughed as Hinata blushed. "So, who is he out with today?" Ren asked. "He's with Karen and Ino," Temari said, suddenly realizing that Naruto was out with the two most sexually interested women of all of them that she could tell. Hinata's eyes widened and slowly, she looked at Temari. Samui looked at the two in confusion and Ren was quick to do the same. "He is a sex addict now, isn't he?" Hinata asked. "Yeah," Temari answered. "Wait, are those the two who argued you a lot?" Samui asked. She remembered the two quite well, actually. She had to assume Naruto would find them more attractive than her, thus, she was jealous. "Yeah. Oh, God. He's a sex addict now," Ren yelled. The wives laughed, the thought of Naruto being a sex addict overly hilarious. The wives had finished their drinks and quickly ordered seconds and continued their conversations. At Naruto's apartment. Naruto had settled down on his couch, allowing Karen and Ino to get his gift into an appropriate bag to give to him. He really couldn't think of a reason they would be giving him gifts, but he never got that many in his life, so he would not turn one down. As Karen and Ino started into the room, Naruto found himself wishing he had gotten them gifts, though he wouldn't have known where to start. "Hey Naruto," Karen said, jumping over the back of the couch and sitting next to him. Ino did the same on the other side. Ino pulled a bigger bag from behind the couch and sat it on Naruto's lap. Naruto smiled brightly as he opened the bag and ripped the tissue paper that covered his gift out of the bag. As he got down to the gift, he pulled it out. The bag had contained a long jacket, much like his father's Hokage jacket, colored with white, orange, and black. Turning it around in his excited hands, he noticed print on the back. "Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto." Naruto could hardly believe his eyes as he looked the jacket over. He noticed the inside had several equipment pockets. Naruto stood up faster than he ever had and put the coat on quickly. He could hardly believe the fact they had gotten him this. "We had them imprint the thing on the back the whole time we were there. That's why one of us kept leaving. We had to pick out the right jacket, the right colors, and the right print," Ino stated. Naruto was too enthralled to notice sounds going on behind him. The two stumbled into the room of the big house. They had been out all day and started drinking about 4 hours ago, having drank more than they should have. As they got in, they stopped and looked to the bed. "It was a mistake to get this drunk. I can't remember where the spare bedroll is," one said. "Damn, can't we just share your bed? I'm going to be staying here for a while, so we might as well be comfortable with each other," the other said. "Okay," the first said, obviously very drunk. She then reached for the lamp and lit it. Both of them, Temari and Hinata, winced at the sudden bright light. The both of them crashed to the bed, feeling the alcohol inhibit their minds and bodies. "Gotta get ready for sleep," Temari groaned, sitting up as she started to remove the unnecessary clothing. Hinata weakly did the same, discarding her tight jacket to the ground, and she started to work her pants off. Temari Hinata moaned as Temari got ready to move. The moment Temari started moving, rubbing their clitorises together, Hinata had to moan loudly from the unexpected joy of it. Temari herself could only smile as she moved quicker, feeling her orgasm starting to well up. In the heat of the moment, Hinata activated her Byakugan, remembering there was a point in the crotch. She hoped she could repay Temari for all the pleasure she had given her. Temari barely had time to look down and prepare for the chaos that would ensue. Hinata had missed her aim in her trembling state and hit herself at the same time that she hit Temari. Both felt the chakra point become overwhelmed and both experienced an almost mind-shattering orgasm instantly. Both instantly held onto one another, grinding their pussies together in desperation to continue what shook their bodies in seizure-like tremors of pleasure. Their folds exploded with moisture that Naruto would later compare to Karen's own orgasm, and they laid on the floor, twitching in pleasure for a full 5 minutes. Both were completely out of breath, still drunk, and overly exhausted when they fully came to from the amazing event that seemed to give every atom in their body an orgasm. "Oh God, I'm sorry," Hinata whispered, too out of breath to talk right. Temari sat up very slowly and looked at Hinata. Promise to do that again and I can forgive you, she sighed, ready to fall asleep on the spot. We really need to get to the bed before we pass out from exhaustion. Hinata nodded and they weakly crawled into bed, helping each other out in the strenuous venture. As they got into bed, the two of them could feel the dark edges around their vision take over and they fell asleep in each other's arms. Naruto woke up very satisfied. Though he had only gotten around 5 hours of sleep, it had been one of the best nights of his life. On both sides of him, Karen and Ino were both asleep. Karen was lightly snoring due to exhaustion. Ino had become too exhausted to snore, which baffled Naruto to an extent. He didn't really grasp that the fox had been feeding him chakra all night, which was also part of why he felt like he had slept for 3 days. Getting up lightly, he got into the bathroom. Jumping into the shower, he set it to mostly cold and relaxed. He felt bad for whoever he was taking out today, as they had a lot to live up to. What if it's Hanabi, though, Naruto wondered. Shaking his head quickly, he decided she was still too young for that. Even if she acted older than him. Naruto also considered that it was wrong that he should think they should live up to each other. Naruto jumped out, feeling like he had lost time, and quickly got dressed. Once he was out of the shower, he saw Karen and Ino both had gotten up and had started getting ready. Looking at the clock, he saw he had been in there for 40 minutes. He was shocked, thinking he had only spent maybe 10 in the shower. It takes me a while to think, Naruto murmured to himself. How did you sleep? Karen asked, revealing she was sore from her voice alone. When she stood up, it was obvious she was beat. Ino said as she stood up. She was obviously sore as well. She looked at Naruto and winked. Smiling, Naruto walked to her. You guys okay? He asked. After looking over Ino, he ran over to Karen. Checking her over, he decided they both needed a day of relaxing. Yeah. We will live. Karen said, grabbing the bags of clothing she had gotten yesterday. Naruto bent over, grabbing the jacket they had bought him. After tossing it on, he looked at them. You guys ready to get moving? He asked. He had no idea who he was meeting today, so he was kind of excited to figure it out. Maybe if he went with to the meetup, one of them could pick. Yeah, walk slow though. It hurts to move. Ino requested. Naruto simply nodded in response. Together, the three made their way slowly out of the apartment. So where is this meeting place? Naruto asked. Ino and Karen looked at each other and back to Naruto. I forgot, Ino stated. I remember where Ren is staying, though. We should go there to find out, Karen said. Naruto nodded and they headed off in the direction of Ren's place. Karen led them to the place where Ren was staying and sat on the bench outside. I have to wait here. My legs won't do stairs right now. Same here, Ino grumbled, sitting next to her. Just ask the person up front and she will tell you where to go. Alright, Naruto said, very unsure of what he was doing. He entered the hotel and walked straight up to the receptionist's desk. Hi. I'm looking for Ren of the Mist Village. That was when he realized it. He knew very little about a lot of these women. He knew Hanabi and Hinata's last name. He knew Ino's last name, but besides that, he knew very little about a lot of the women. He knew Temari, Hinata, Hanabi, and Ino since he was young. The others he had all met later. Because of that, he felt bad. He was supposed to be learning more about these people. Room 305, the receptionist stated blandly and went back to work. Naruto nodded and went for the stairs. When he got up there, he looked at the number a few times, making sure it was the room, and knocked. Inside he heard some rumbling as though the person had fallen. Humming. He heard Ren yell. Naruto waited patiently and eventually Ren opened the door. Naruto looked at her for a second before he finally realized who she was. On the other hand, she seemed to recognize him immediately. Instantly she blushed and looked away. I didn't know it was you, Naruto. It's good to see you, Ren murmured. Naruto smiled slightly and patted her head. It's good to see you too. Nice to see you are all healed up. Ren smiled and nodded. Anyway, Naruto started again, Karen, Ino, and I were wondering where the meetup is. They tried to remember where it was, but had no luck. We were hoping you would know. Yeah. I can show you if you would meet me outside. I have to change, Ren blushed. It was then that Naruto noticed she was wearing her pajamas, which were just her underwear with a long shirt over them. He blushed a little and backed up. Alright, I'll see you outside. Naruto blushed as well. Ren slowly closed the door and leaned against it for a moment. Seeing her future husband and hero made her feel weak for a moment, then quickly went to get dressed when she realized he would be waiting. At the Hika compound. Hinata woke up with 2 sudden realizations. She was horribly hungover and there was somebody in the bed with her. Sitting up quickly, she knocked the arm away from her and looked. Fully nude next to her was Temari. Hinata looked at herself and gasped. She herself was completely naked. As she stood, her pounding headache hit her and she almost fell from the throbbing. Son of a bitch, Hinata heard from behind her. Quickly looking back, she saw Temari sitting up, holding her head. She looked to Hinata, seeing her naked, and looked back to herself. Wow. That really happened. Yeah, and I think I'm dying right now, Hinata responded, needing to sit. Temari chuckled a little and kept her head in her hands. I hope you're not dying cause it was that bad. It's the hangover. Listen, can we talk about this tomorrow? When we aren't sick. Yeah. Together, they got dressed and headed to find Tsunade. It would be awkward to explain they were horribly hungover and needed treatment, but Tsunade is the one person who would understand. They hoped. At the meeting. Temari and Hinata walked into the meeting place, now recovered thanks to an IV and medical ninjutsu. Looking at the ones already there, they saw Karen, Ino, Ren, who seemed fine, and Samui, who seemed fine as well. As they got to the table, they noticed another was with them. It was Naruto. Didn't realize you would be here, Naruto. Nice jacket. Temari smiled. Hello Naruto. Hinata said, with a very slight stutter. Hinata also included a compliment on his jacket. Once the two sat, Samui looked at them. Naruto was just telling us that he has no idea who he is going out with today. Among us here right now, only Ren and I have yet to go with him. Hanabi should be back soon enough, and Kuretsuchi will probably wait till the wedding, or the week before, to actually arrive and go out with Naruto. It's nothing against you personally, Naruto. It's just past village hate that she won't let go of. Even if the villages are at peace right now. I understand. That's why I am trying my hardest to figure out how to make her feel happy around here when she gets here. Naruto stated. That's nice of you, considering she will probably be a pain. To be honest, though I have only been here for a little bit, the Leaf Village has grown on me. I hope it does the same for her. Me too. But who should I be going out with? The girls all looked at each other. It felt strange to think about, but it was easier to pick considering some of them had already been out with him. It was a simple vote between Samui and Ren. I will be okay with waiting another day. Besides, I want to be the last, before Kuretsuchi. I know her a bit, so I can try to prepare Naruto then. Samui said before the voting even got underway. I think I should go. A voice said behind Temari and Hinata. Everybody looked and saw Hanabi standing by them. If that's okay. Naruto looked at Ren, who smiled and nodded. Internally, she had wished she could have gone out with Naruto. She could, however, wait a little longer. Alright, Hanabi. We can head out. It was supposed to be yesterday, anyway. Naruto stood and said goodbye to everybody. Hanabi took his hand and the two left. That was a little bitchy. But I guess I understand. She was apparently supposed to go out with him yesterday, so she probably feels a little ripped off. Samui whispered. Yeah. I can wait until tomorrow, anyway. Ren said. That's my sister. She is quite determined. Yeah. And you are her sister. Looks like she got all the determination, Temari stated dryly. All of it, Hinata smiled. But she has her sweet moments. You will all see them. Believe me. As a matter of fact, I'm sure Naruto will see her nice side. Well, alright. Samui said and relaxed in her seat. Oh my god. Hinata gasped suddenly. Everyone looked at her suddenly and followed where she was looking. Karen, Ino, Temari, and even Samui gasped. Outside the window was Sakura. It had been a long time since anybody had seen her. If they hadn't seen her pink hair, they wouldn't have recognized her. She had always been pale, but she was almost pure white now. She had always been skinny, but they could now see her hip and cheekbones. Ino looked away with tears in her eyes, and Karen wrapped her arm around her shoulder for comfort. Hinata could only stare in disbelief. Temari looked away in discontentment that she had fallen that far because of one man. Samui had only met Sakura briefly, but even she was shocked. All they could do was hope she didn't run into Naruto on his time out with Hanabi. Then she did the next worst thing. She looked in through the window, her eyes looking as empty as someone's eyes could, and saw them. With Naruto and Hanabi. Naruto walked through the streets, Hanabi still holding his hand tightly, and wandered to the food district. He had no idea what to do while on a date with Hanabi. He assumed it would be different than the others. Mainly because if she tried to initiate sex, he would decline. So far, he had only started it with Hinata, though he supposed the accidental towel slip could be blamed a little. So where are we going, Hanabi? Naruto asked. To the Dango shop we went to a few years back. Hanabi stated. Naruto thought back and began to remember going there with her between missions. He really didn't and still doesn't like Dango. She had asked to go there, however, and he agreed to go with. Alright. They made their way into the Dango shop and were quick to order. Naruto watched Hanabi order and not disliking what she ordered, got the same thing. He didn't eat here at all really and had no idea what they had. After they got their food and Naruto paid, the two went outside to sit on a bench located at the front of the store. You know, Hanabi started, making Naruto almost jump in surprise. She had been quiet most of the time so far. The first time we came here all that time ago I counted it as my first date now more than ever. Us getting married soon and all it just makes it feel more like it really was my first date. Naruto had never considered the effect he could have had on her. Looking back now, he hadn't realized his impact on so many people's lives, yet there were now several people who wanted to marry him, were willing to deal with the Clan Restoration Act, and were on their way to becoming friends. It was quite touching to really take in how lucky he was and how he was starting to have a family of his very own. It was something he had always wanted and he was now well on his way to having a family. Wow. I hadn't realized how much that meant to you. It really does mean a lot, though. Naruto said, eating his dango and taking Hanabi's hand in his. Naruto looked at Hanabi with a smile. It's okay. I mean I was kinda young then, but so were you I guess. So it was just something I didn't expect you to think about I guess. Yeah well, what do you want to do after we finish eating? Hanabi thought about what she usually wanted to do and had trouble thinking of something she actually liked to do without it being against on a date material. Well I guess we could spar. I'd really like to see how strong you have become. I mean, I'm sure I'm nowhere as strong as you, but I just want to get a gauge and show you how strong I am. That's fine. I could use a good workout. And I will go easy on you. It really isn't a fair fight saying I have the nine-tailed fox, after all. Yeah, I guess not. I would still like to meet the fox someday. I'm sure you will meet him someday. We chat quite often, and I'm sure he would like to meet all my wives someday. The two finished their dango, and though it really didn't fill Naruto, he was content for now. The two stood up and headed for the training ground. At the wives' meet-up, Sakura walked in. None who knew her could believe it. Since Sasuke was brought back, she seemed to avoid them altogether. Now though, she was there. She was walking toward them. She looked mad. Hello, everyone. Sakura said with anger in her voice. How nice to see you all. We're stepping outside. Samui stated and pulled Ren up from her seat. The two of them excused themselves away from the soon-to-be-seen. You can get out of here too, Hinata and Temari. You haven't betrayed anybody. Sakura stated, the anger very apparent in her voice. Hinata looked at Ino and Karen, giving them a quick apologetic look, and they left the place. Sakura, look. We understand you're mad, but… Shut up. Sakura screamed at Ino as she tried to talk. Both Ino and Karen flinched as their ex-friend shouted. You two think you can just abandon Sasuke like you did. Not only that, but you didn't even complain when he was sent to prison without trial. It has just been me fighting to get him a trial and get him freed, well you two just sit there. Not only that, but I hear you two are going to marry Naruto now. You two just give up on Sasuke and move on to Sasuke's greatest enemy. You abandoned Sasuke, you abandoned me, and you abandoned yourselves. Karen and Ino just sat there listening. Both wanted to yell at Sakura but thought it would only make it worse. There was Sakura. Yelling at them and looking more like a skeleton than their past friend. She was so brainwashed by Sasuke that she couldn't see how ridiculous she was being. Do you two have anything to say for yourselves? Sakura yelled after her rant. Karen, who had less of a history with her, snapped. Yeah. You are crazy and we are busy preparing for our wedding day. If you are done being a brainwashed fool, then please leave. Karen said. Ino instantly hoped that Sakura's body could no longer sustain its past super strength punches or Karen may die. You bitch, Sakura whispered, hate dripping in her voice. Her hand went back quickly and Ino felt herself rise slightly to stop Sakura from possibly killing Karen. A hand suddenly stopped Sakura's though. Who the hell? Behind Sakura was Temari, holding Sakura's hand in a death grip. Sakura turned to look at her and saw Hinata, Samui, and Ren behind her. I don't know what she said, but we saw your face after she said it and I will be damned if I let you mess with one of Naruto's other wives. Temari growled. Sakura's face twisted in anger and looked like she was getting ready to swing at Temari. Hinata noticed this and moved in. Slamming two palms into Sakura's side, Hinata sent her flying away from them and crashing into the restaurant's wall. Karen and Ino both looked at the other wives with shock in their eyes. We should probably pay for the damage before we get in serious trouble from this. Hinata murmured. The others nodded in agreement and headed to pay. It would have easier to just run, but they liked this place too much to just leave. Don't worry about it. The owner said when they tried to hand him cash. She was obviously insane and the village police are on the way to get her. Thank you. They each said and left. Both were overly happy to be out of there from meeting Sakura again after so long and finding out she had lost her mind. Ino and Hinata felt the biggest hit from seeing her, having known her most of their lives. I don't think we should tell Naruto about seeing her, Karen murmured. Samui and Ren looked at her with a shocked expression while Temari nodded and Hinata and Ino stayed lost in thought. Well, look at Ino and Hinata. They are crushed. Also, yesterday Naruto and Ino both got upset when Sakura was brought up in discussion alone. Think about what it will do to him when he hears how far she has fallen and how bad her mind is warped. It's just not worth it. I don't know if we should keep this from him. Samui stated dryly. I think we should, Ino suddenly chimed in. The other future wives looked at her, waiting for her reasoning. If it would have been Naruto here instead of me, I wouldn't want him to tell me. I'm not going to tell him, but if you guys want to, be my guest. At that, they all understood. It would hurt too much to know. They all could imagine what he would feel and suddenly felt worried about telling him. Samui, however, still felt it wasn't right. I will tell him. This is a piece of information that he has a right to know and would feel betrayed if we kept it. I know he will understand if you don't wish to tell him, but Ren or I should and comfort him with what may come after. Alright. Ino returned. That was just really painful to deal with. Why don't we all go to my family's compound? There is lots of room there so we may all hang out. Hinata said, still in shock over Sakura's behavior, but more so her appearance. She had always been thin, but attractively so. Now, she was pale, starved, and insane. It was a lot to take in just a few moments. That sounds nice. Let's do that. Ren said from the back. Slowly, everybody came to an agreement that some time to relax where there wouldn't be any awkward encounters. With Hanabi and Naruto. The pair got to the training grounds quickly. Naruto, who was still nervous what to do next, was happy the idea of training came up. A quick spar would be good. Standing opposite each other, the two got ready to throw some punches. Naruto had figured they would only punch and kick until Hanabi activated her Byakugan. Wait, I don't want to fight you using jutsu. I could really hurt you. Naruto insisted, backing up a bit. Thinking to himself, he could only think of a few jutsu that he knew that wouldn't be potentially fatal. I want to see what you can do. Neji and Hinata are good, but I am better. Hanabi said. At that moment, she rushed at Naruto. Should we show her what we are capable of? The fox asked. Naruto didn't need to think about it, opting they only use 1/10 of their ability. The fox, who had remained completely still up till then, gave Naruto the required natural energy needed to go into sage mode. Hanabi didn't falter and instead struck Naruto in the stomach with a chakra-infused flat palm. Sending him flying back a bit, Hanabi smiled in suspected victory. When Naruto stood up however, she realized how wrong she was. Seeing his chakra flow, she couldn't help but notice that the natural energy had blocked her attack and Naruto had received no real damage. I think she realizes what we can do now. The fox chuckled. Naruto smiled lightly and moved in to attack Hanabi. Though she tried to jump back, Naruto grabbed her arm and tossed her playfully. After doing so, he wished he hadn't, as Hanabi appeared to become angry about his casual attitude toward the fight suddenly. Naruto frowned and stepped back a bit, not wanting her to hurt herself trying to attack him. The only thing he could think of however, was to take the spar session seriously. Getting ready to fight, he dashed at Hanabi just as she charged at him. The two threw punches, and Hanabi assaulted Naruto with continuous waves of Haiku jutsu. Naruto had decided after getting serious that he would refrain from using jutsu. He didn't want Hanabi getting hurt from any of his jutsu, most of which could easily kill any non-homicidal maniac, like the villains he faced in the past. Okay, I want to at least see one of your stronger jutsu, Hanabi said, slightly exhausted. Naruto, who was feeling pretty good from the workout, nodded. He stood completely still for a few moments. Before long, he had decided what to show her. Ready, Naruto yelled, and a flash of blinding light flooded the area. Hanabi was pushed back a bit by a wind of chakra what resonated from Naruto. Once the light had faded, she looked to see another transformation of Naruto, rather than a jutsu. While she was slightly saddened, she was awestruck at the same time. Before her was Naruto standing atop the nine-tailed fox's head. Hanabi ended her Byakugan jutsu, as the sheer amount of chakra that flowed between the two was hurting her eyes. From behind her, back in the village, she could hear people cheering and whistling. At one time, the fox was the embodiment of everything the village hated. Now, he was an attachment of their hero, and just as much a hero himself. Wow was the only thing Hanabi could murmur as she stood staring at the two. She couldn't help but realize how weak she was, yet at the same time, she felt safer than she ever did in her entire life. With Naruto protecting her, it would take all the shinobi world to get to her. Naruto, realizing that Hanabi had seen enough, dropped the form and landed on his feet by her. Hanabi dropped down to sit on the ground with a still very shocked face on. You okay? Naruto asked her. I've never felt safer or weaker in my entire life. I would be willing to train you. I don't want anyone to feel weak. It just is nice I have the power to protect everybody I love. Which does, by the way, include all my future wives. Naruto said and sat down next to her on the ground. Looking over to him, Hanabi smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. Smiling, Hanabi kissed Naruto's cheek. Come on. You should probably take me home. Hanabi said, standing up. Nodding, Naruto also stood up. The two began their walk back to the Hike mansion. As they walked, Hanabi decided to hold Naruto's hand, which didn't bother Naruto. As long as she wasn't trying to sleep with him. He felt bad thinking that, as he had with most of the other future wives, but she was still a little young. "So I hear you have slept with quite a few of the other future wives." Hanabi said as though she had read his mind. Naruto reacted the same way. "What? Where did you hear that?" Naruto said, jumping back a bit. Hanabi laughed a sweet laugh, thinking it was funny he was either protecting their honor or trying to avoid it with her. Temari said she did. "Hinata slept over the other night and you were out with Ino and Karen. It was pretty obvious." Hanabi stated. Naruto lowered his head, thinking she was about to scold him or something. "It's okay. I knew that it would be one of the things I would have to get over when I offered to be in this relationship. All the wives have thought of it and have dealt with it too, I assume. And I know you are avoiding it with me. That is fine. Soon enough, though, it will happen. After all, you have one busy wedding night." Naruto stared at her, not sure what to say. He felt really selfish suddenly, realizing all that the wives had to deal with, realizing they would have to share him. Looking at the ground, he started to think about it. He wouldn't be willing to share a single one of them with another man, so why should one of them be willing to share him with the others? "Hey." Hanabi said, breaking him from his train of thought. "It's okay. You didn't really ask for this, I'm sure. And we all volunteered. We're all friends and we all understand what is being asked of us. You have no room for blame over the fact we are all in this relationship, especially saying there will probably be days where most of us will be aggravated with you. But it's okay. If it wasn't, do you think we would all meet up to get to know each other?" Naruto smiled. Hearing her list why it was okay did make him feel a lot better, though he was still a little bothered. He could only hope when they were all married, it would solve any internal disputes he had with the idea. "Thanks, Hanabi." Naruto smiled and kissed her on the forehead. Not what she had hoped for, but she understood. The two continued their walk toward the Hika compound and soon arrived. Hanabi and Naruto stood outside the gate, ready to say their goodbyes. From inside the mansion, they could hear the laughter of the other future wives. "They must be in Hinata's room. Hers is oddly enough at the front of the house." Hanabi mentioned. "Wanna stop inside and chat?" "Sure." Naruto smiled. "Good." But first, Hanabi murmured and kissed Naruto on the lips. Naruto didn't resist, feeling she had earned at least this for helping him through his realization that he should have really had from the beginning. After the kiss broke, Naruto smiled at Hanabi, who was blushing. "If I couldn't have you for the night, then I at least wanted that." The two made their way into the mansion and arrived at Hinata's room after exchanging pleasantries with a few members of the clan and Hiashi. Knocking first, the girls all quieted down and Hinata quietly said to come in. Hanabi led the way, followed by Naruto. Naruto was amazed by the sight of the room. It was much larger than his apartment alone. Quietly, he whispered, needing a place like this for him and his big family. Hanabi and Naruto. They all shouted, except for Samui, who only smiled and said it softly. "What did you guys do today?" Hinata asked happily. Seeing her ask so naturally assured him that they really did realize what they signed up for. "We ate, sparred, and I harassed Naruto on how much of a whore he is." Hanabi answered. The response caused a burst of laughter from most of them, with Hinata and Naruto keeping quiet and blushing. "We forgot to ask it, but I suppose that means Ino and Karen did have their way with you, huh?" Samui asked in a cool voice. "Hell yes." Karen said with a grin. This time they all laughed, except for Naruto, who stayed blushing. "So, you staying the night here, Naruto?" Temari asked. Naruto looked confused, so Hinata explained. "I offered to let them stay over. We're going to have a slumber party. In truth, it was my father's idea. After meeting them, he insisted that they stay over." Hinata explained. "And he insisted that we stay here now. I guess he has rooms to put us in as well." Samui stated. "And I was offered to live here yesterday. Hinata over here and I cuddled." Temari smiled teasingly, obviously hiding what really happened, which was staying between Hinata and herself for now. Naruto decided to nod that he would be staying, though he blushed more after hearing that Hinata and Temari cuddled. It just didn't seem like something Hinata would do. But Temari, it was slightly believable. "Cool. A big party then," Ren said happily. Hinata, Hanabi, and Temari went and got sleeping bag-like beds, and everyone set up theirs on the floor, with Naruto's close to Hinata's bed. Everybody else placed theirs by his. Looking around after counting the places, Naruto had to ask Hinata something. "You're missing two. Do you want me to help get them?" "It's okay." Temari asked if she could cuddle again. Hinata started as Temari got into Hinata's bed. "And we decided that Hanabi should at least sleep with you. Is that okay?" Hanabi asked. Naruto smiled and nodded. Naruto scooted over and let Hanabi get into his sleeping bag. Naruto wrapped his arms around her as she cuddled up close to him. "No fucking you too." Karen said a little too loud, causing everybody to laugh loudly. As the noise calmed down, there was a loud smack noise, causing everybody to look over at Naruto and Hanabi. Seeing that they were still the way they were, the four others on the ground looked confused. "Stop it, Temari." The quiet room heard Hinata say, causing a loud burst of laughter again and causing Naruto to shoot up and look at them. Hinata, who was blushing from being heard, looked sheepishly at him. "She groped me." Naruto laughed quietly as everybody else thundered with laughter and stroked Hinata's cheek with his hand. Laying back down, he cuddled with Hanabi again. A lot of the night was spent with all of them laughing and joking, with very little sleeping being done. When they did, however, Hanabi had drifted to sleep next to her future husband, surrounded by all of his other future wives. It was strange, but she couldn't think of a time she was happier. None of them could. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.